Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check out the link to my Patreon page above. I'm here with a replay of round 4 of a Modern Friendly League. I'm playing my mono blue Merfolk list, and it's been feeling really solid. Been having a great time with it. Let's go ahead and look at the opening hand. I love Island Walk, and I love Island Walk Lords, but we can't cast anything, so gotta mulligan this. We mulliganed last round too, I think. This is a keep with a scry. Kira is great in a lot of matchups, and Silvergill is exactly what we want to see. It's going to help us draw into cards that will hopefully sort of smooth out this kind of jaggedy hand right now. Creeping Tar Pit, we saw this once before already in this league in round 1, which was Grixis control. Let's go ahead and play this Cursecatcher out. Okay, opponent plays an island and Inquisition. Unfortunately, on turn 2, we cannot counter that with Cursecatcher. That's one of the downsides of being on the draw. So let's see what the opponent chooses to take. Silvergill for card advantage, or Kira to sort of get through with their spot removal. Yeah, Kira was pretty much what I expected to see, but we're going to be able to start the beatdown with Cursecatcher and draw a card with Silvergill Adept. If the opponent tries like a Spell Snare, of course, we've got Cursecatcher protecting us on that front. Let's get in with Cursecatcher first. Start the clock ticking. And we'll follow up with Mutavault into Silvergill. I'll reveal the Lord that the opponent already knows about, and hopefully draw blue source. We got to do it at some point. Well, another Mutavault. Not terrible in a matchup where we can expect the opponent to have at least some sorcery speed removal, something like Collective Brutality. Maybe even a main deck Damnation. Okay, so there's a Scalding Tarn, the first sign maybe that the opponent is possibly on Grixis. And there's that blue source. We're going to go straight to combat. We're going to try to get as much damage in as we can with Cursecatcher and Silvergill Adept. Opponent cracks their Scalding Tarn. And we see a bolt on the Cursecatcher. Opponent's going to take 2 from Silvergill. And I think I'm just going to play out another Mutavault. The opponent knew that we had it in hand, and running out a Lord after the opponent bolted a Cursecatcher seems to imply that they might be low on mana, that they might need to resolve something like Kolaghan's Command or Cryptic Command. Okay, already down to 13. Hitting their life total super aggressively. And here is a Pia and Kiran Nalaar. So these Grixis lists, they're not extremely prevalent in the modern metagame right now. I mean, obviously Grixis Death Shadow is huge, but Grixis control decks, they're pretty rogue at this point. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can go about building it, and Pia and Kiran Nalaar is, I guess, one of the ways that you can go about it. It's pretty rough against us because those Thopters can pick off our Island Walk Lords. Ripping another Island Walk Lord is actually a really nice draw. What we can do is play 1 out, activate a Mutavault, and swing for 6. If the opponent taps really low to Thopter Bolt one of our Lords, we can just play out another one next turn, do the same exact thing, and swing for 6 again, hopefully bringing the opponent down to 1. So play out the Lord that they know about, activate Mutavault, and swing for 6. Getting the opponent down to below 10 points of life in the first few turns is a good goal to have, because then we can just kind of lean for the rest of the game. Okay, Field of Ruin can deal with one of our Mutavaults. Okay, they're just going to pass through to our turn. Now they've got 3 cards in hand. We drew an island, and I kind of hastily played out the island. It might have... It's almost certainly correct to play out the Mutavault first, because I can't cast 2 blue spells this turn anyway. And we might want to activate 3 Mutavaults and attack next turn, but he can't do it if the Mutavault has Summoning Sickness. So this Lord is almost certainly going to bite the dust here. So I'm going to try to play out another one. I know that in response, he can Thopter Bolt the Lord, or Thopter Shock the Lord. Unfortunately, it looks like he's going to Fatal Push that Lord, which now means that the Thopters can handle the Master of the Pearl Trident. I'm going to activate a Mutavault because if they Thopter Shock, the Master of the Pearl Trident, they only either have chumps left for Mutavault or a trade with Pia and Kieran, and I'm sort of fine with either of those. Alternatively, of course, they can use the Field of Ruin. There's a pretty clean answer, but I've got another Mutavault, and we want to keep pressure going here. Yeah, so I guess Field of Ruin is probably the correct call. They get to leave both of their Thopters alive. We'll, of course, replace it with an island, and I don't really feel like using the Harbinger yet. If the opponent tries to get in with a Thopter, we can take them off value by destroying one with Harbinger. All right, so there's a Terminate on my Lord. The opponent's got plenty of removal. Of course, 3 mana left up to Thopter Bolt, Thopter Shock. And yeah, we're going to, well, take 3 here. Attacking with Pia and Kieran is interesting. It strongly implies that they have another Pia and Kieran in hand. They might not be able to play it out this turn, since they don't have the mana. Spell Pierce is a great draw. I think what we're going to do is just play out the Harbinger, bounce the Thopter. We don't want to bounce Pia and Kieran because they'll just play it out and get more Thopters, and that kind of stinks. So bounce one of the... Sorry, activate Mutavault first, I guess. If the opponent wants to... Sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here with advancing the game state from the replay. So my thought here is, again, that they attacked with Pia and Kieran, and so they're almost certainly going to play out another one of those and get more Thopters. At this point, if they want to bolt or with the Thopter one of my creatures, I'll still be getting in for some damage with another one. I can follow up and bounce the other Thopter. If they tap low to play another Pia and Kieran, they won't be able to sack Thopters. It just seemed correct to me to swing with the bodies that I have here. Of course, they can block the Silvergill and trade, and then this attack is a little bit aggressive. As I was saying, they could block with one Thopter, sack the other one to kill the Mutavault, but pretty effectively dealing with my team. I guess my thought process was it's better to get some Thopters off the board. I don't have access to Island Walk. They've got this sort of engine of removal here. I don't know. Seems a little hasty to me. I might not have wanted to attack with the Silvergill here. Now, Kolaghan's Command is awesome because it means that they can't sack their Thopters. They're trying to kill my Mutavault and make me discard something. Spell Pierce once again, super clutch. And at this point, the opponent can trade with Silvergill if they want. Seems like a decent idea. And then I'm going to bounce the other Thopter and play out my second Mutavault. So at this point, if the opponent attacks with Pia and Kieran again, I'm just going to block and trade with Harbinger, but they didn't. So you know what? I don't think you block and trade there, right? Because they're just going to play out another one. This is interesting. They're not activating Creeping Tar Pit, and they didn't play out another Pia and Kieran. So not quite sure what's going on yet, but pretty happy to see that Master of the Pearl Trident. I think I'm just going to activate my Mutavault and swing. If they have a way of dealing with the Master of the Pearl Trident, the best they can do is kill the Lord and then trade Pia and Kieran with one of my creatures. The opponent's already at 5. So Snapcaster's pretty rough. They can go and get Lightning Bolt or Kolaghan's Command. What are they getting? I'm pretty sure it's Kolaghan's Command, right? No, it's just Lightning Bolt. Bolt, and then are we trading with both? Sure, all right. They take 2, go down to 3. Might have been kind of hasty. Okay, and they're following up with a Delve threat, which they almost certainly just drew. Master of Waves, great follow-up. But the opponent has a Cryptic. What a hand this guy has. Snapcaster Mage, Tasigur, and Cryptic Command. Super strong stuff from the opponent. Another Creeping Tar Pit. Tasigur getting in. The opponent is at 3 life. Following up with another Snapcaster, and now maybe Kolakon's Command. Gonna return another Snapcaster to their hand, or no, just Pia and Kirin to get that removal engine going again. And I drew a land. Wow, that turned around pretty quickly. I guess when the opponent has all that strong stuff in the end game, it's not a ton we can do. That turn where I made that semi-reckless attack with Silvergill and Mutavault actually turned out really well for us because the opponent went for Kolagon's Command and I just spell pierced it. So that went in our favor, but at this point, and the follow-up to that was insane. On my big attack, they Snapcaster, removed the Lord, double block. Yikes. Anyhow, that's the first game loss of this friendly league. Look away if you don't want to see the match result. As we saw in the first round, I've got a really strong sideboard strategy against this deck. Take out the 4 Spreading Seas since they give us islands anyway. Take out the 4 Vials since it's weak to Kolagon's Command, and we're going to have plenty of time to establish lands anyway to cast our spells, especially with Cavern of Souls through their counter magic. We get to bring in 2 Dispels, 2 Negates, 3 Relic of Progenitus, and 1 of the 2 Dismembers to deal with whatever threat they land. So we're going to be on the play. It's great for us. This is a picture-perfect hand. We've got counter magic. We've got creatures. We've got card draw. We've got Cavern of Souls. Opponent's just going to pass with a Polluted Delta. We drew a Reejerey, which is excellent. Swing with the Cursecatcher. Opponent takes 1, and we're going to follow up with Cavern and Silvergill Adept. We don't even want to give the opponent a chance to cast like a Spell Snare. We'd rather not sacrifice the Cursecatcher if possible. And another Cavern of Souls. So even a Field of Ruins can't take us off of our uncounterable Merfolk. Untap Steam Vents and go. Another land is a little bit clunky, but just like before, we're just going to swing in with these guys and try to deal as much damage as possible. Opponent's going to take 3 this time. I'm just going to pass. We don't need to commit anything else to hand. We're going to make the opponent use a Terminate on a Silvergill, which I'm happy enough to let resolve. I'm not going to use my powerful Negate to save a Silvergill. Opponent's going to pass. I drew a Harbinger, but at this point, I think the best path is play Master, not activate Mutavault, leave up mana for Negate. Let's see what the opponent has. Oh, that was a misclick. Of course, I meant to attack with Cursecatcher, but I don't know what happened. I clicked twice with my mouse to put him into the red zone, and then he came right back. Super rare these days that I this is really terrible. I mean, I've got a Cursecatcher on the board. Not sure what he's thinking about. So terrible play from the opponent. Passing back to me, there is a Kira, but instead I think I'm just going to activate Mutavault. Swing with the Mutavault, not going to get Ambush Vipered by Snapcaster. Kozilek's Return, it's a good target for Negate. Opponent will presumably take 3 damage. And we can follow up with Cavern Naming Spirit, telegraphing a little bit that we have the Kira, but it's the correct play. Another Field of Ruin, and looks like the opponent is going Delving here. And then undoing it, not quite sure what's happening here. Field of Ruin, the Mutavault, I'll get an island, and then following up with Tassiger. Now that makes sense, I guess, because Field of Ruin gives him another card to delve away. Search for Azcanta. A little bit slow with the opponent on 9 life and an empty graveyard. We are going to get to land Kira this turn, which is huge, and that Spell Pierce is also potentially huge. Actually, drawing the Spell Pierce, potentially changing the equation here a little bit. So I actually decided to get really aggressive here and just play out Reejerey, tap the Tasigur, bounce him back to his hand, and then swing in for 3. It just seemed like a very good opportunity to get super aggressive. The opponent's graveyard is really, really empty, and if they want to play, if their best play is getting Tasigur out again, they're going to have to tap out. However, they kept the card that they saw off of Search for Azcanta, and so I'm a little bit afraid here that I might have overextended. There is a Damnation. They're going to get to follow up with a Thought Scour and a Field of Ruin. But with the opponent on 6, Kira is the sort of optimal card in our hand because even if they play Tasigur back out, we can keep chipping in over the top for damage. And they just used their board wipe. So let's get Kira out. Let's get Cursecatcher out. And we get to leave up Spell Pierce. So obviously Spell Pierce would have been excellent against that Damnation. As I mentioned, though, I took the opportunity to be aggressive. You have to pick your spots, and sometimes you get a little bit unlucky. Opponent seems to be drawing lands right now. And going for Tasigur, maybe? Yep, here's Tasigur. Tapping some of their lands, potentially turning Spell Pierce on. I like drawing the Island Walk Lord. We can try to get in for 4 here. Okay, looks like it worked. And I have no more threats in hand, so if the opponent has another Damnation, we're not going to make it. Okay, they're trying to electrolyze my face, so I thought for a moment about using the Spell Pierce to prevent them from drawing a card. They're currently empty-handed. Obviously, the only way to get value off the electrolyze is to go after my face. If they went after my creatures, it would just get countered. But I see that they're tapped out, and Kira is a lethal threat by herself. I'd rather sack the Cursecatcher, get value out of its ability, and keep the Spell Pierce live for the opponent's next turn. Now, it's possible they could do something like Snapcaster, which is 2 mana, if they draw it, into Damnation, but they only have 5 more mana, and Spell Pierce would be enough to counter a snapped-backed Damnation. The opponent gets in. I'm going to take it, and looks like they scooped at that point. So I got really aggressive and got a little bit punished getting my board wiped, but we were able to follow up with this unanswerable Kira and some Island Walk to get in for the win. So 1-1 against Grixis Control in this match. Look away for a second, please, if you don't want to see the match result. So back for game 3, we are going to be on the draw. Opening hand. You know, it might look like a mulligan at first with 4 lands, but it's a keep because Island Walk is important, Mutavault is important, Master of Waves is important, and Relic is important. Plus, we're on the draw with the opponent mulliganing, so that makes it an even easier keep. See if the opponent kept and put a card on top. So presumably things kind of decent looking for the opponent. They're going to start things off with an untapped Watery Grave, taking them down to 18. Kira, an excellent draw. We're just going to jam this Relic here. I think we're going to see Thought Scour here from the opponent. We see another Thought Scour and Tasigur hitting the bin. Polluted Delta. In response, I'll just trim their graveyard. Pretty important, actually, to respond to that way, because if I let that resolve, they have 2 lands and 4 cards in the graveyard and could resolve Tasigur. By trimming one of their cards, it leaves them on only 5 available resources for Delve, and Tasigur takes 6. So they have the Tasigur in hand, we just shut that off. Untapped Blood Crypt, being really aggressive with their life total. Negate is pretty nice, and it actually kind of allows me to not need to run out of threat this turn. Instead, leaving up mana comfortably for Relic, as well as Negate, if they sideboard something in like one of the Lilianas. But they're just passing the turn here, which looks good for us because we can just keep activating this Relic. So at this point, I think it's time for Mutavault. I had to decide whether I wanted to run out Kira first, leaving my Relic vulnerable, or just running out a 2-drop, leaving up mana for Relic. And I think that leaving up mana for Relic is typically correct, but Kira kind of trumps that since she's such an important card in the matchup. I feel okay leaving the Relic unprotected for a turn. But it looks like the opponent is going to get to resolve a Logic Knot, which is a questionable inclusion in his deck post-sideboard. But he gets to resolve it, countering my Kira, which is super strong from them. They continue to just pass the turn, though. Alright, just going to chip away at their graveyard. Now, I think I might just pass the turn because I can always flash in Harbinger at the end of turn if I want to get a body on the table. Opponent is going to end step, get rid of my Mutavault. I've got plenty of islands to replace that guy. And we're also leaving up Negate in case the opponent tries to land some big non-creature, though. Well, they seem to be going more of the creature route. So I am going to flash in Harbinger here with the intention of bringing in Master of Waves next turn. First, we can get rid of a card from the opponent's graveyard, and then follow up with Master of Waves, 3 Devotion, bringing 3 bodies, and we'll just pass this back to the opponent. Let's see what they've got in response. So Pia and Kieran immediately dealing with the Harbinger. It's interesting, makes it seem like they don't have... no, that's pretty good, actually. So by sacrificing a Thopter, they turn on Revolt, and they get to deal with all of my threats. Very strong from the opponent. They're down to 3 cards. We're on 4. Of course, the Relic represents another card draw eventually. But we keep drawing Master of Waves, which seems pretty good. Instead, I'm going to play out a Lord of Atlantis. Another Lord of Atlantis. Trying to go big on Devotion. Opponent's got a Snapcaster for a Fatal Push, but that only deals with one of the Lords. The opponent's going to keep swinging in. If we get to resolve one of these Master of Waves, we're going to stabilize right away. Lightning Bolt. Opponent's hand is looking really, really good. Let's get rid of that Lightning Bolt while we can. So, yeah, let's get a Master Wave on the board. These guys are our best chance to stabilize. So, yeah, you can see immediately the opponent not swinging in with Pia and Kieran anymore. Not even swinging with Snapcaster, which is questionable. And they pass with all their mana up. So, got some choices here. We've got the Negate, so we can obviously protect against, like, Damnation. So I think it's going to be smarter to run out Silvergill. Opponent is, okay, tapping really, really low for Cryptic Command, trying to counter my body with card draw and draw a card themselves. It's an excellent target for Negate. That's going to resolve, and Silvergill is going to resolve. Merrow Reejerey, drawing more gas. At this point, an extra land would be nice so that I'm more comfortable holding up Relic to crack it, but we get to activate it right now and get rid of that Cryptic, which is huge. No attacks to be had right now, so just pass to the opponent. They play a Field of Ruin, which is pretty terrible at this point. I think they're going to continue chipping in with this Thopter. Oh, looks like they're getting with Pia and Kieran also, which makes me think that they're setting up for a board wipe. Master of Waves has protection from red. Possibly another Pia and Kieran, right? That's another option. Okay, so Pia and Kieran ate it. I took 1, and Kolaghan's Command going to return Pia and Kieran and destroy Silvergill Adept. So these are really strong plays from the opponent. They don't have enough mana to play the Pia and Kieran. And of course, we were going to remember that that's one of the 2 cards that they have in their hand. There's that 5th land. We can activate Relic now to get rid of that Kolaghan's Command. And chose to go with the Reejerey here, knowing that the opponent has a Pia and Kieran in hand. If they tap to play her next turn, they may not be able to sack a Thopter and like kill the Reejerey. But I also get to follow up and bounce the Thopter, untap a land, and leave the Relic up to sack and draw another card. So establishing a ton of devotion that the opponent has to answer. And if I follow up with this last Master of Waves, then I'm going to be presenting a board presence that the opponent's not going to be able to answer. So again, no attacks. The opponent has a Snapcaster to flash back, and with no value to be had in the graveyard, they just add another body to the battlefield. Things kind of heating up here in the later turns. We're on turn 10 now. So we see a Thought Scour, draws them a card. And okay, the opponent is going for Kolaghan's Command. They're trying to deal 2 damage to Reejerey and make me discard a card. Now, I was really hesitant to discard this Master of Waves. Pretty sad for a moment, but then of course I realized I have this Relic on the board that can let me draw another card, and pretty much anything that I draw, I'm going to discard before that Master of Waves. So another Relic, very easy choice. Discard that, and it's going to leave me with my big creature in hand. Opponent gets in with one of his Snapcasters. I'm just going to block it with an Elemental, and we know that the single card in the opponent's hand right now is another Pia and Kirin. Now, Cursecatcher was an amazing draw because it's actually 2 bodies in conjunction with Master of Waves. It's a 3/2 as well as a 1/1. All right, so Master of Waves bringing 5 3/2 elementals. Now, at this point in the game, I think we've seen 3 Master of Waves. This kind of matchup, it's definitely our best card. So just get him with the Harbinger. I don't care if the opponent trades with the Snapcaster. I've still got plenty of bodies, and that Snapcaster was going to be there if I didn't attack now. It would be there next turn. So, all right, opponent plays Pia and Kirin. He's got no more red mana to kill anything with a Thopter, and he just concedes at that point. So, a lot of big punches being thrown by both decks. I mean, we saw Snapcaster, Kolaghan's Command, Fatal Push, even Logic Knot on Kira, which was unexpected and kind of a blowout. But Master of Waves just pretty much single-handedly won the match. You could imagine if this was blue-green Merfolk that I was playing, we would have gotten absolutely crushed. So that was round 4. I'm currently at 4-1. We suffered the first game loss in this round of the friendly league. Please let me know if you have any questions. Check out the link to my Patreon page. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next video for the 5th and final round of this Modern Friendly League. Thanks, guys. Bye.